So now that we've talked about task history, we need to go in and actually talk about filters. So filters are a very important thing, and they can be really, really useful inside your Zaps, all right? So first, I'm just gonna go in and show you, hopefully, an example of filters, if I can remember where I've got some Zaps that have some filters in them, all right? I think right here I may have a filter. Let's take a look. So I do have a filter right here. And if you can see, this is a Zap, all right? This is one Zap, and I just want to remember and put it in your head that here's 1 action, 2 actions, 3 actions, 4 actions, 5 actions, 6 actions, 7 actions, 8 actions, 9 actions are in this Zap. So anytime this Zap fires, which it will fire anytime that my Tier 5 Stripe account says that there is a new failed charge, all right? So if I were to actually look into my Tier 5 Stripe account and I were to actually see a failed charge, then essentially this Zap would be firing, all right? And I can just show you exactly how this automation works and why it's so important to me. We're just gonna look inside my Stripe account and we're gonna break down this Zap, and then I'm gonna show you more about the filters, all right? So if I go in here and actually look at these payments, this is literally my live Stripe account. You can see, hey, here's a payment that failed right here. $1 failure, all right? And these are failing due to do not honor, and I can see that, all right? Here's a failure for insufficient funds. All right, so you can see that there's failures that are actually happening here, all right? So this $1 failure, you can see, you know, don't worry about their email addresses, but this has been a failure, all right? So because of that failure, Stripe has sent a bunch of data right over here to fire this process. Now I can see that I am going to end up sending a email to some email address, all right? So I'm gonna send an email and I'm gonna say, hey, you know, I noticed your payments are failing, but if you wanna keep using our software, you need to pay us some money, all right? Because our software costs money. So now this would go out to everybody, and I want you to notice that this actually includes a link in here for a user to go in and actually make payment, all right? Now, not every user needs to actually make this payment. Like these people that are on this dollar right here that's failing, they don't actually need to make this payment. It's actually for these people right here who are on this $97 plan. So if I were to actually go in and find somebody who is on this $97 plan who their payment has actually failed, here's one right here, Phoebe, all right? Phoebe, you owe me some money. All right, and now if I were to actually go in and actually look inside here, I should be able to see somewhere in Phoebe that you can see here are these things that are going out, all right? You can see in this email right here, it says account suspended due to non-payment. So here are these right here, they're going out. Hey, your accounts have been suspended due to non-payment. You need to pay us some money, all right? So now what my filter is doing? Well, filter is exactly what you guys would just naturally assume that a filter is. So it is something where you stop certain things from going through and you only allow the things that you want to continue to go through to actually happen. Just like your water filter, you know, in your water filter, you can go in and you can filter your water so that you don't get a bunch of nasty little particles and bacteria inside your water. The filter just catches those, and only the water, only the things that you want to go through actually goes through. So the filter in Zapier is not really any different. So essentially what's going to happen is you're going to get some data from your trigger, all right? So at any point you can add a filter. So right here I could go in and add a filter. At any point that you want inside your Zap, you can go in and add a filter, all right? So for me, I have this filter right after Stripe. So right after my trigger, I have a filter and it says only continue if, all right? So it says only continue if. So if the data that I'm about to define to you does not actually match what what I'm telling you it should match. If it doesn't match these conditions, then don't continue this automation. All right, that's what this means, because the automation, either I don't want it to happen for some reason, and I especially don't want to pay for it. All right, so in these filter steps, you're going to be able to filter. I'm filtering here by customer email. I'm saying, hey, from Stripe, if my customer email exists, then do this. What should I also do? Maybe I could say, hey, if from Stripe, I could go in and say, you know, product, and I could go in and actually look at product. Is there any product here? Description, product. Payment. All right, so here's plan. All right, so I'm just going to put in here tier plan. Type in plan here. So I can see that I have in here lots of times customer subscriptions data plan name. All right, I have all this customer subscriptions nickname. I can just put in here if this thing contains, and I want to look for a tier 5 group membership. All right, let me see if I can search in there tier 5 group membership. So I'll just type in here tier 5 group. And now these things need to happen. All right, so I can go in and say that these things must happen. All right, there must be a customer email address. So the customer email address has to exist. If not, I'm not going to be able to perform all the actions. This step needs an email. This step needs an email. All these steps require an email address. All right, so if I don't have the customer's email address, then there's no reason for me to continue on this process, because everything is actually going to fail. All right, and I also really actually only want to send these out to people who are subscribed to the tier 5 group membership. All right, if they're not subscribed to the tier 5 group membership, then I don't want to do this. Now, there is a little bit more elegant way that I can do this, and that could be with a path. But we haven't gone over paths yet, so you don't know how to use them yet. So we're not going to talk about those right now. We'll talk about those in a later training video. All right? So now you can see what this filter is doing. So this filter is essentially filtering out the stuff that you don't want to happen. All right? So they're very, very powerful, and we're going to kind of go over a little bit of an example. I've kind of shown you everything exactly how it works. You can see there was a match. You will see in your task history if something was filtered out. So you'll be able to look in your task history. You can see if a task has happened, and you'll be able to actually see that, you know, hey, it has been filtered out. It worked, and it's been filtered out. Okay, so we're going to continue here. I'm going to turn this back on. And I'm going to show you actually. I'm just going to finish this up here so I can turn my Zap on. There's another little pro tip. Sometimes if you can't turn your Zap on, you just look over here, and whatever little Zap is not orange, then that means you need to go do something there. So this let me actually turn everything on. So now I've got it turned on, and it's great. I'm going to go back to my dashboard. All right. And in my dashboard, I had another thing somewhere I wanted to show you. I think I had another filter, another Zap that I use a filter for. Here's another one right here. All right. So if you look, here is the same thing. These are for the tier 5 partners. All right. So these are for the tier 5 partners. The same thing that's happening is a charge has failed. All right. So whenever I get a new failed charge from a tier 5 partnership, then I want to first filter things out. And you can see my filter. It says, hey, I only want to filter things out if the plan includes the word partner, because I know all the different partnership levels that I have are always going to include. They're always going to include the word partner in the subscription data plan nickname. So I know that if this person, if their payment failed and it is a payment for a tier 5 partnership, then this will only allow it to continue. If it doesn't have tier 5 partnership in it, then this won't happen, because I know for a fact that those people will not be partners. And that now kind of actually looks something like this. And you'll be able to see somewhere in here, you see right here, partnership payment failed. All right. So you can see this automation has ran earlier today because a partnership payment failed, and this will happen every time it fails. This automation will run, and it will let them know that, hey, you have 7 days from today to make payment arrangements with Tier 5 for your partnership, or you're going to lose equity in our company, or we're going to cancel your partnership, and we're going to sell it to somebody on the waiting list. All right. So now no one can say, hey, I didn't know. How was I supposed to know? Well, there's an automation that's actually set up to do this, and it saves me so much time. So you can see that these filters are very easy, relatively easy to go in and actually use, and you can see that you can actually make as many conditions as you want here. So you can and things together. You can say, hey, only continue if this, or if this, or if this, and you can and things together and say, hey, if this one thing is true, then do it. Or if these 2 things are true, then do it. Or if these 4 things are true, then do it. All right. So you can kind of create as much complex Boolean logic as you want, and you'll be able to pick from any of the previous data. All right. So you can come down here. I could add another filter in down here for some reason, and whenever I add another filter in down here, I would be able to select from my previous data. All right. So you can see I've got all these previous steps, to step 1, to step 2, step 3. I can filter on any of the data, that data out. If you remember in the task history, I showed you that each Zap has some data out. So you could go in and actually, filter by a filter. Now that would be really stupid, because you would probably set yourself up for failure there on things that are just going to waste your time to build anyways. So, but you can theoretically do that if you want. You could filter on data coming out from this Gmail action here. All right. So you can add filters anywhere you want, and you can see their usefulness and how they're so useful and why you should use them inside your Zap. So I do recommend them using them as much as possible, because like I said before, your Zaps have actions, and those actions are chargeable things. So for me, I showed you a Zap that had 9 actions, and those actions all required an email. And just imagine if my Zaps were firing even when I didn't have a present email. Well, that's going to happen for every one of those guys. They're going to fail, and it's going to be useless for me to carry out those actions, yet I'm still going to have to pay for it. So I would totally recommend you use the filters anywhere you want. All right. But use them when they're needed to really help you. All right. So you can see kind of some of your options that you have. Like I said, I showed you that you can actually use any of your previous data. This is all my data just coming from Stripe. So you can use any of your previous data. And then you have all these options. If text contains, text doesn't contain, if text exactly matches, if it doesn't exactly match, if text is in, if it's not in, if text starts with, if it doesn't start with, if it ends with. You can check numbers, you can check Booleans, if it exists, if it doesn't exist. All right. You can do date-time comparisons if you want. So you have a lot of Boolean logic operators here for you to actually create complex filters and go in and actually make sure that your Zaps are only happening whenever they need to happen. All right, so that's pretty much everything you need to know about filters. I think now you have enough information that you can go implement filters on your own inside your own Zaps.